sessions. But I sat there just soaking up all of the good things that your co-workers were doing in their 10 and 15-minute segments that Pastor asked them to do. And I think you'll find it very, very interesting and very helpful as well. Now, I'm going to watch the clock here carefully. I have basically one thing that I want to do for you tonight that I hope will stir and motivate you. I want to give you a little game plan, which I'll get to in a minute or two here. But I want to talk to you about setting a goal to double your class in the next 12 months. And I'm going to give you some specific ideas about how to go about that. Now, you say, oh, double my class, man, I might try and I might miss it. Well, if you miss it by 2 or 3 or 4, we'll still count it a victory, okay? But obviously what I'm after is to get you to determine that your class is not going to just become a status quo situation, but that it's going to grow, and you're going to go find people, and I'm going to give you some ideas on that in just a minute. Somewhere along the way, I wrote down on a rough piece of paper, and I say it here because, we're in a time now where if we don't wave the flag of warning once in a while, some people turn down the wrong road. I wrote down, stuck in my notes somewhere, before you go adopting the methods of the evangelicals and the music of the charismatics, as some of our churches are doing, you'd be wise to see what those methods and that music have produced for them. Now, let me just give you an example. We're independent Baptists. Your church is an independent Baptist church. There's something in the neighborhood of 17, 18, 19, maybe 20,000 independent Baptist churches across America. And the Southern Baptists are a convention group, as you're well aware. They have 47,000 churches, most of which have gone to some degree into the contemporary mindset in the last decade. Now, let me tell you what it's done for them. Nationwide, they have lost 1 million members in 10 years. No gains. Oh, and I know you hear all about it, man. They got one here and one there where the crowd's big. But they've lost, their figures, their numbers, which they report, they've lost 1 million members in 10 years. The baptisms in their churches nationwide continue to spiral downward. Hugely. They are at historic lows and getting lower every single year. They are in panic mode trying to figure out what's going on. And so before you go pressing the pastor or saying, man, our church ought to do what some of these other churches in town are doing, you may want to take a good look at what's happening with them. Every generation, here's the second thing I want to say to you. Every generation must wage its own wars against the enemy. I can stand up here, pastor can stand up here, any preacher can stand up here, and we can talk about Dr. Hiles and Dr. Malone and Dr. Rice and Dr. Hudson and Dr. Seitler and a bunch of these great men who've already gone to heaven. And we know their war stories. We watched them, we loved them, we know what they did. But if all we do is tell their stories and wimp out when the enemy shows up in our neighborhood, we're going to lose what they earned for us. Right. And when we stand up to be counted, I told you this morning I was pastor in Maryland a long time, and early in my pastorate there was when Jimmy, what's his name, was the president at that time, and he had done something that didn't please me at all, and I got up on Sunday and said something about it. And one of the good men in our church cornered me in the hall after the service and said, Pastor, you can't do that. You can't do that. I said, I just did. And he said, no. He said, you can't do it. I said, I tell you what, come on back tonight. I didn't get done. I'm going to do some more. Amen. Now, he got over it. He got over it. But The liberals, religiously, politically, and every other way, they have intimidated a lot of us into silence. And you and I have to be very much aware, if we let them do that, then they will eventually take the day, and the town that you live in will go crazy. And so we have to be willing to stand up and do what we ought to do. Take a stand. And I encourage you in that regard, because if we do not, then our churches die. Our churches die. If we do not stick to the stuff that we ought to stick to. And let me just say, I'm here once in a while to be a guest at pastor's invitation, and I'm here to be a friend of your ministry and all of that. But let me just say by way of encouragement, don't stop doing what you've been doing. Do you realize what you saw happen here today all over this campus? There are people all over America who would give their eye teeth to see that even once. And you folks are putting it together in a part of the country where people would say, well, that's a tough part of the country. Well, hey, listen, every place has got its own degree of toughness, but you're not intimidated, and I commend you for that. And God bless you for pressing on. Now, let me talk to you specifically about what you can do to, and I'll say enlarge, I'm going to say double, because I think it's reasonable in most instances for our classes to take a hitch at doubling what we're doing. So here's my get my tongue going here. Get my specific instructions for you. Number one, I would like for you to figure out what your average is this year. What you have done in your class this year, let's figure the average. Maybe from last October to this October, let's figure the average, and then double that number. Maybe put it up on your mirror at home or whatever, but put the number in front of you so you know what you're shooting for. Now, the obvious things we want to keep doing. For example, we want to keep soul winning every week. We want to keep gleaning the visitors from the church service. Walk up and down these aisles. See, here comes a family and they got 2 or 3 children. You're a children's worker. Go over there and talk to them. Your kids in Sunday school. Your kids coming to my. Are they going to be in my class? Let me have them next Sunday. Bring them an hour earlier, and have them Sunday. You glean out of the church service. Some folks will just walk in here for church, or somebody will get them to church, and you can. These are obvious things that you can do. Work your visible prospect. You're going to keep doing all of that. But the plan that I want to offer to you here tonight is what I call the trouble and double plan. Now, everybody's heard of double trouble. You've heard of that, haven't you? Double trouble? Well, let's turn the words around. I want to call it the trouble and double plan. You say, what are you talking about? I want you to be willing to go to the trouble. Go to the trouble to set a plan to double. You see, the reason why we ought to go to that trouble is because almost everybody you know out in town is in trouble. They've got a headache. They've got a heartache. Things are not going well for them. Marriages are breaking apart. Kids are driving them crazy. All of that. So we're talking about trouble and double. Just go to the trouble to help the folks in trouble. And in doing that, we're going to double what we're doing. Now, here's some things that I would like to suggest you do. Number one, that you survey your current families for referrals. Let's say you have an adult group and you have, maybe you've got 10 adults in your class or 20 adults or 30 adults in your class. Why don't you talk to each one of them privately and talk to them about their family members who live here within 15 minutes of the church or a half hour of the church. Glean off of your current families the referrals of their family. Their parents live down the street here somewhere or over in one of the other towns nearby. Then get them to take you and introduce you to their family. Go in and make a definite appeal to them and say, hey, we're from Faith Baptist Church. I teach the Cornerstone class or the Golden Age class or whatever class you've got. We're glad to have part of your family there, and just go in and make the pitch to them about coming. So work off of the referrals of your current families. Now, second thing is, get your current families to turn in names I'm not just talking about their immediate families now. I'm talking about people they meet at work, people that move into their neighborhood. If you can get your current people to feed you names. Somebody just moved in next door. We had somebody down the street move in the next block. I saw the moving van, or I saw them moving stuff into the house, or the real estate sign came down and somebody's moving in there. Get your family thinking with you to turn in those names so you're getting a constant flow of new possibilities that you can work with your class in mind. Now, third thing, and this is a big one. I want you to pick out an area, and we're going to make an effort to capture that area. I'm talking about, maybe something right here within shouting distance of the church. But pick out an area, maybe 10 or 15 blocks this direction, 10 or 15 blocks that way. And I'm going to suggest it be something where there's at least 300 to 500 homes. At least 300 to 500 homes. Now, that area, that zone, I'm going to encourage you, number one, if you have an adult class, get you a partner or two who are working in the children's department. Maybe get a partner out of the teen workers, and build some other people. Get some other folk, even some of your current class members, to help you. And let's concentrate on that neighborhood that we've picked out. Now, I know we all go here and we go there and we make visits all over the place, and sometimes we go and canvass and all, but I want us for the next 12 months, you pick out the place where there's 300 to 500 homes, and every single month, let's knock on every single one of those doors. Now, get enough help, build your team, including the partnership with the children's worker or two and a teen worker or two, so that we can make this work for all of us. But if you'll concentrate on that zone, here we are coming up to November. So early in November, let's start working that neighborhood. Now keep track of what you've done. So the second week of November, well, hey, we did that 100 homes or that 150 homes. We're going to do the next 150. And if you'll work that during the month of November, and then December, we're going to turn around and go back over that area again. And every single time you go, take something different to put on the door or to hand to the people who answer the door. You've got a Sunday school class. Get the office to run you off some flyers, and different ones now. Don't hand out the same thing all the time. But make some pictures of some of your class members stuffing their face with donuts or those big muffins that I saw over there. But get some pictures to put on the flyers. Now, put it around so you can show people with their Bibles and studying the Bible. But I mean, people out there, they don't know what goes on here. And if you'll use the pictures and put a little verbiage on it, but don't just hand them stuff that's got words on it. Show them some pictures. This is our class, and get those flyers to hand out. Along with that, in this neighborhood, and I'm going to keep saying 500 homes because I want you to stretch to get it. But let's say the 500 homes in this area we're going to capture. And that's another word I want you to get. Capture, capture, capture. We're going to go capture that area. There are people in those 500 homes that are dying and going to hell, and you and I can capture some of those for the Savior if we'll just go after them and go after them and go after them and go after them. Here's the point. It was made clearly in the clinic Friday and Saturday more than one time. We build relationships with people. People get acquainted with us. They get to know us. And if you go in there in November, you go back in December, you go back in January, you go back in February, and every month we're going to at least one time knock on the doors in this zone that we're going to capture. And what's going to happen after a few months? That lady's going to open the door and she said, "Oh, you're the folks from the church." Or they're going to say, oh, by the way, it wouldn't hurt that this could be an area where there's already a bus route or where you're going to start a bus route. That's going to complement what we're doing here. Let me suggest another thing in this regard. If you have this adult group, you may want to start some car routes, because there's a senior adult couple that's willing to come, and maybe they don't want to get on a bus. So some of your folks that are sitting in your class, go and recruit them. Say, I've got this senior adult couple. They live over on whatever street, and I've made arrangements. I need somebody to go by and pick them up and then take them home. It's a car route. It's making your car a consecrated car, and we can make this work if we plug in enough things here. So we're going to go after this, knocking on every door once a month, and meeting the kinds of needs. Senior adults, if they need a ride, they want to ride in a car, arrange for that. And if you can get a bus route started in your 500 home area, or if there's one already there, then feed that bus route with what you find. But we're going to keep going and keep going. And the folks who live in that area, they're going to get better acquainted with Faith Baptist Church than they've ever been acquainted with it. They're going to get to know you for one thing. They're going to say, oh, you're the guy that was here a few weeks ago. Yes, ma'am, we've been just right here. We're working the neighborhood, just talking to folks and letting them know we got a wonderful church. Over on Walnut Street, we got a wonderful church. And doors wide open. We got the red carpet out for everybody. And if you'll work the zone, you pick out the place, you pick out the zone. And then for the next 12 months, every single month, we're going to knock on those doors and keep going in. And let me back up. You're going to have flyers. You're also going to have brochures from the church. Church has got brochures or tracts with its name on it, whatever. You got those. And I'm going to recommend, too, that while you're at this, that you go ahead and let's try to, and let me think of the right word for this. We need to try to saturate that 500 home zone. Because, see, a lot of these folks, they're not in church. They haven't been to church. And they may not show up right away. So if we put something in their hands, and obviously I think we're a good source for providing pamphlets. A lot of these pamphlets like I've got out here on the table, we've got hundreds of different titles. For example, let me just suggest something. I wrote a little booklet. I don't have it out there. But it's on why I still believe the Bible is the title of it. Do you realize that people in this 500 home zone, there many of them do not even have a Bible in their home? I guarantee you. There are a lot of them, if they have a Bible, they've never looked at it. They don't know what's in that Bible. Take that attractive little booklet and put it on every door. Why I still believe the Bible. You say, what are you doing? We're reseeding what the universities and the public schools and the media and a bunch of other things have taken away from our people. You don't have to go all that far back in American history where that most of the people who lived in town, they had some understanding of what the Bible was. They knew who Jesus was. They'd heard about it. We got people now by the millions who have no clue. Or if they have, they've been sold off of it. While I was in Maryland, we had a college in our town, Western Maryland College, a very liberal school. The chairman of the philosophy department was the most famous liberal in our area because he wrote for the newspapers. He called me one day and he said, and we could, from my church campus, we could look kind of across the treetops and see the college campus 2.5 miles away. And he said, Pastor, he said, I've been watching you since you came to town. And he said, could I get you to come over and lecture to my philosophy classes? And I said, well, let's talk about it. Well, come to find out, they paid a lecture fee. I said, well, hey, they're going to pay me to come over there and walk in a liberal school with my Bible up like this, which I did every time. I wound up going every semester for 12 years. Being a guest lecturer in the philosophy department in his philosophy class. He was chairman of the department. And those college freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors, I would do 3 1.5-hour classes a day, lecture for an hour and take questions for 30 minutes. Now, I'm talking about in the United States of America. You would be, well, maybe you wouldn't. But it's absolutely appalling. I mean, when I would get done, those kids would come at me, with vengeance. hateful, hostile, antagonistic, admitting that they were communists and socialists and whatever else. And, you know, I just dealt with it. Now, I mention that to you because your neighborhood's filled with people like that. Lots of them. So what we have to do, we have to reseed America. And this 500 homes that you're going to go after, just, I mean, they're not to church yet. So start feeding them this stuff, feeding them this stuff, feeding them this stuff. Feed them, not just gospel tracts, but I mean feed them stuff. Get a booklet or something on evolution. Something that just chews evolution up and spits it out. Put it into the home. You say, well, that'll aggravate people. Sometimes you got to get their attention. And a lot of these evolving monstrosities, they'll bristle up. Well, hey, listen, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to deal with those guys. And sometimes you just got to let them hoot and howl, and then say, well, let me raise a few issues with you, and let's see where we can go with this. And but putting stuff into their hands, the flyers, booklets, and whatever else, it's a saturation concept that's going to help to break down the resistance with the folks in these 500 homes. Now, and remember, we're going every month for the next 12 months, we're going to go in there and go in. I mean, we're putting foot soldiers into this zone. And maybe the bus route will be there too to help us. But we're putting all this stuff in there, and we're walking through. We're being nice. We're being warm. We're being friendly with people. And as we go through there, I guarantee you, you're going to find some people who are going to say, well, you know, we used to go to St. Joseph's or something, but we hadn't been to church a long time. And, you know, again, while I was pastor in Maryland, lots of Catholics in Maryland. You know, I mean, I got so used to hearing, well, we're Catholic, you know. I said, man, we got so many people in our church that when we found them, they were Catholics. In fact, at one time we did a survey of our membership and found out that about 40-some%, I think it's about 45% of our members were former Roman Catholics. So, you know, these folks can be reached. So we're going to build a team of helpers, knock on every door, get the booklets and flyers and stuff. And when you run onto prospects that don't quite fit your class, and I know you got competition going on here, but share the prospects, amen? Share the prospects, and the process, too, of what we're doing here. Go ahead and train your people to be soul winners. Get your current people helping you to go after these folks. And here's a little key. Plan your work, and then for the next 12 months, work your plan. And I'm telling you, we're talking about you being troubled enough about your class and about people in your town that you're willing to go to the trouble to find the troubled people, and it'll help you to double your class. So one last little thing here. I got a list in front of me that I wrote out this afternoon, and I call it some don't do that stuff. Don't do that stuff. I'll just rattle it off for you. Don't get lazy. Don't be intimidated. Don't permit discouragement. Don't be a complainer. Don't let circumstances dictate to you. Oh, my classroom is so overflowing. My classroom's too little. Don't let that stifle you. Don't let that slow you down. There's ways to deal with that. Don't change from who you are. Don't change. Don't try to do it all yourself. Line up help. Don't forget the chain of command. Don't forget the chain of command. Remember, we're all working in a structure here, and rightly so. And don't lose heart and vision, and keep on dreaming, and press on, press on. You know, we have those big presses. We've got a web press at the Sword of the Lord that's as long as this auditorium, big digital press. So, you know, we talk about pressing on a lot at the Sword. Well, don't let your press break down. Keep pressing on. And my little plan here is trouble and double. I hope you'll go to the trouble to make every effort to double in the next 12 months. All right.
Amen. That's great. All right. Well, we'll take 10 minutes. I'll start singing in a minute, but let's get everybody inside here, and we'll get the ball rolling.